Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 20 female, love my mother, 45 female, more than anything. She was still with my father when my little sister, 13 female, and I were born. We never had much insight into their relationship, but when I was 12, they officially divorced. While my younger sister still has some contact with our father, I've completely turned away from him. He's an emotional manipulator who tried to tie us to him through blackmail and bad-mouthing our mother for all the years he was single after the divorce. But now that he's in a new relationship and has started neglecting us, he blames my sister and me for him being single and unhappy all those prior years. My younger sister has always been his golden child, while I had a closer relationship with our mother. So when my mother met her new boyfriend 7 years ago, I was able to cope better with the fact of her having a new man by her side because of my age and my connection to her, rather than my younger sister, who at the time was still on the side of her father, who was so hurt by their divorce. We'll call my mother's new boyfriend Brian. Brian tried everything to win us over as children and to build a good relationship with us. Even though I was just going through puberty and my little sister didn't understand any of it, and we certainly made his life hell for a while because coming to terms with a new man by your mother's side is difficult. He never tried to replace our father, but was always there for us. He drove us to school, went out for ice cream with us, and when Mom took the sweets out of the shopping basket, he secretly put them back and gave them to us. Years have passed, and the hatred of Brian by my little sister's father's fuel for her has subsided. My mother and Brian met a year after the divorce, so I was back then round about 13 and my sister was 6. Everything was fine until I turned 18. I was now legally an adult, and even though this was the case, I still lived with Brian and my mother, who had been sharing an apartment for several years. A few days after my birthday, they announced to me that they were planning to build a house together and wanted to know if I was planning to move out, as they would otherwise take this into account when planning the house. Since I had just started going to university and didn't have a job anymore, I knew I wouldn't be able to afford my own apartment alone so easily. So I asked if it would be okay if I stayed with them for the time being. Everyone was okay with it, and so the house planning began. And that's when Brian started behaving strangely. He started making comments that became increasingly weird over time. One day, he was packing some laundry as we were getting ready to move all our clothes into the new house. He came into my room holding a red lace bra and asked me if it was mine or my mother's. For context, I wear a solid C cup, while my mother wears a full-on F cup. So there's absolutely no reason for confusion. When I explained to him that it was obviously mine, he said, "Too bad," and left the room with my bra in his hand. These types of comments about my body increased over time. During our first few weeks in the new house, I walked into the kitchen one morning wearing just a top and sweatpants, without a bra. Sitting alone at the kitchen table, he greeted me with a good morning, and then made a comment about whether my breasts had grown, and that I was really becoming a woman, and shouldn't hide the rest of my body in such baggy pants. Even if it hadn't sunk in yet, it took 2 more comments about my butt in the following weeks, and the final straw, the touch of his genital area on my butt when I wanted to get a glass from an upstairs cupboard, and he did the same while I was standing in front of him. Terrified because I knew how much my mother loved this man, I told her about what happened with Brian anyway. And she didn't believe me. To her, we were still the stubborn teenagers who didn't accept Brian because of our father's manipulation and tried to badmouth him. I never would have thought she would react like that, since we've always had a good relationship, and she should have known that I would never lie to her about something like that. With no other option and no other place to stay, I continued to endure him and his comments. I think she maybe talked to him about it, because after our argument, at least things never became physical between him and me again. But the inappropriate comments remained. So you can imagine that I wasn't too happy when the two announced a few weeks later they were now engaged. It was okay. Even though my dislike for Brian was growing, I still tried to be happy for my mother, who was now headfirst into wedding planning. A huge party with all of her friends and relatives. A few months passed, and my mother took my sister and me shopping for dresses to wear to the wedding. Since we don't have any other young children in the family, my little sister, even though she's already 13, was to play the role of the flower girl, and I was to be the ring bearer. While we were in the store, we tried on a few dresses, and while I was able to find something relatively quickly because I'm not very picky, it took considerably longer for my little sister. She had something to complain about with every dress. Sleeves that were too short, too much lace showing her skin, or the dress was generally too short if it wasn't floor length. After she tried on the 6th dress and was becoming more and more dissatisfied, I went to her in the fitting room and asked her what was wrong, as she really did look like the wonderful princess she is in most of the dresses. What she said to me next shook my world. She told me she was afraid to wear anything too pretty because of what Brian would say to her. When I asked her to explain in more detail, she told me how Brian had been telling her for a few weeks what a great woman she was turning into, and that she was already getting good boobs, and how he had often asked to go to the bathroom urgently while she was in the bathroom having a shower, even though she had told him to wait because she wasn't dressed. That was the end of it for me. I just told my mom that we were going home because my sister wasn't feeling well and that we would go shopping another day. We couldn't even start the car before I started crying of rage. I yelled at my mom and told her what had happened. I accused her of not believing me and what Brian had done to us while she was ignoring it. I also told her that my sister is a child who had just had this happen to her, and she is about to marry a ducking creep. Before my mom could even reply, I told my sister to get out of the car and we walked home. Since then, we've basically just been locked in our rooms at home. We usually eat in the afternoon when my mom and Brian are still at work, or at night when they're already in bed, so we don't run into them. I also found printed wedding invitations on the kitchen table, which tells me that my mom is still planning to go forward with the wedding. When my mother came home from work one day, she found me in the kitchen ripping up every single invitation. She screamed at me, which sparked another argument. I confronted her about how crazy anyone could be to even think about a wedding when this was happening to their own children. I also told her that I wouldn't attend the wedding, not even for $1 million, just like my sister. She begged us to talk to Brian about it, but I don't feel it's our place to get into action with him, as she is our mother. The last one happened recently, and I really don't know how to handle the situation. I'm currently looking for a job while I'm at university, so I can start saving up to move out of home. However, I don't know what to do about my sister, as I don't want her living with our father either. Brian is truly disgusting, and to be honest, OP's mother should be ashamed of herself. I will never understand how you can't put your children's words first. OP should immediately go to the police. OP and her little sister are in danger, especially OP's little sister. OP should not wait until he does something even worse than what he has already done. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Document. I understand that you have no money, and this isn't either of your faults, but it's time to move in the shadows. Try to buy a couple of fake phone chargers that are actually cameras and set them up in the kitchen and hallway near the bathrooms and bedrooms. Save all the data. Have your sister start keeping a log of every time Brian is inappropriate. Try to get a week's worth of proof before having your sister come with you to the cops to report him. You can even ask one of her teachers to help report to CPS, so you can have another advocate for you both. Lastly, gather up all of your important documents and your sister's so you can grab them and run if need be. Reach out to other family members to see if you can stay with them or see if any friends can take y'all in. I'd go to the wedding and make a speech about what a disgusting creep Brian is and ask all the relatives if anyone is willing to take us in. First of all, I want to thank all of you for your kind and numerous messages. I know that with so many stories being shared, some tend to get lost. But the fact that I received such an overwhelming wave of support truly touched my and my sister's heart. I read every single comment. You made us feel seen, heard, and no longer alone. Of course, it would have been smart to move in the shadows, but here's what happened next. You probably remember the moment I tore up the wedding invitations. Brian eventually noticed all that's going on, and it was pretty obvious he sensed something. As for my mom, she called in sick. She's been lying on the couch for days, refusing almost all communication. She cried constantly, and was avoiding both me and my sister like we were ghosts. The only person she let near her anymore was Brian. Naturally, I made sure to listen in on a conversation between them one evening while my sister and I quietly made something to eat in the kitchen. Brian sat beside her, held her hand, and said things like, "I don't know what's wrong with them. Their father ruined them. You're not to blame. You know me. I'd never do something like that. We'll get through this, together. I just want what's best for the three of you." I honestly don't know if he believes what he's saying. Maybe he does. Maybe that's the most dangerous kind of person. The ones who repeat their lies until they feel like truth. And yes, as I already said about moving in the shadows and gathering evidence to report him. Sadly, this isn't a movie, and Brian isn't some dumb NPC who carries on with their act, even though he knows. He's on the watch now, 'cause we told Mom. As you can now guess, Brian completely stopped. No touching, no comments. He doesn't even look at us anymore. No other bathroom stunts. Nothing. He avoids us entirely. Ever since I confronted my mom, he's been acting like the perfect loving stepfather. Concerned, calm, keeping his distance. Probably to avoid more stress. But we know better. This isn't remorse. It's strategy. He's scared. Scared we might collect this proof. Scared someone might believe us. That's what I think. And that's why, for my sister and me, it was crystal clear. This won't work anymore. We need to leave. Now. As many of you suggested, we made a last-ditch attempt to contact our father. Something that was incredibly hard to do. And as expected, nothing. He has his new life, new girlfriend, her daughters, new family. Even the horse he once gifted my sister, likely more of a power play against our mom than a loving gesture, because she refused to get her one and spoil her, is the only reason she even goes there occasionally. Besides the child support, he offers nothing. No calls, no interest. As soon as Brian's name came up, he was done. That has nothing to do with me. Stop trying to ruin my peace. So, yeah, total dead end. Next, I called our maternal grandparents. And the worst part, my mom and Brian beat us to it. They apparently warned them about us during a phone call, spinning stories about half-truths, misunderstandings, and emotional confusion. My grandparents literally told me, "You need to work this out with your mother. This is a family matter. Don't be like that." I wanted to cry. Actually, I did cry. But luckily there's always one person in these stories who's got both a brain and a heart. My aunt. When I called her, and my cousin, I broke down and told them everything. And she didn't hesitate. Her daughter, my older cousin, had moved in with her boyfriend, who happens to be a lawyer. Fate? A few months ago. And their attic apartment in the multifamily house has since been used as a guest space. She offered it to us, immediately. No conditions, no questions. My cousin even said she would ask her boyfriend if he would think through the situation and see what we can do, and to send him all we have. And trust me, we may not have much, but we've been keeping track. We wrote down every inappropriate comment, my sister's statements, my statements, and now, my cousin even admitted that Brian had made several inappropriate jokes in front of her, too. So there it is. 3 people, all saying the same thing. Even if we don't have videos or recordings, we have 3 witnesses. And sometimes that's enough to not feel so alone and powerless anymore. But there's more. My sister's teachers have been informed by my aunt. I also had a long, emotional talk with her homeroom teacher, who was absolutely shocked. She promised to keep a close eye on my sister, especially during pickup times. If Brian ever shows up at her school, there'll be immediate action. With my sister's consent, the information has been shared with the full teaching staff. The school is behind her. That gave us so much strength. And yes, my mom knows where we're going. I told her, if you or Brian come anywhere near my aunt's house, we're calling the police and Child Protective Services. There are 3 people who can testify against him, and I mean it. We haven't officially filed charges yet, but I think the threat alone worked. She knows that keeping Brian comes at a price, losing her daughters. And still, for now, she chooses him. I also told her not to contact us until she's gotten help. Real, professional help, not comfort from Brian. No more, "I don't know what to believe anymore." I never thought I'd say this, but I want no relationship with a mother who looked the other way while her children were being destroyed. For now, we're moving out during this week. We're only taking essentials, but it's going to be fine. I'm still applying for jobs to support us while I'm studying. But it's a start, a real one. And the wedding? I don't know if my mom still plans to go through with it now that we're leaving, but the venue is booked, her dress is bought, my aunt was supposed to make the wedding cake, and so on. I want to see if she'll still choose him after this. As much as I still love her, if my cousin's lawyer's boyfriend gives us the green light, we'll go ahead and press charges against Brian. She doesn't know that part yet. But you know what? This isn't our loss. It's hers. Even though I also view her as Brian's victim in this situation too. There will probably be one final update. I'll let you know once we've settled in and the dust is cleared. Thank you all again, truly. You gave us the strength to stop being silent. Update 2. Hey everyone, this is going to be the final update, as everything that happened is quieting down. I want to thank you all again for sticking with us through this emotional hurricane. Your words, your strength, your shared outrage, they carried us when our own legs gave out. Thank you truly to every single one of you. First of all, we moved out, and your comments helped us a lot. You reminded me to take important documents that are important to our future. So when I got home, the first thing I did was go to our home office, used mostly by Brian, and take the 2 folders containing all of our documents. We had no boxes, so we packed gym bags, backpacks, and cheap tote bags that we found in the house. As I said, with other essentials like clothes, toothbrush, school stuff, and some electronics, as well as a few pictures my sister didn't want to leave behind. The rest stayed, and honestly, it didn't hurt as much as I thought it would. My mom, who still has not gone back to work, tried to stop us. Well, she stayed on the couch, but cried and yelled that we couldn't do that to her, blah blah. It was like shedding skin, honestly, leaving behind everything we had to carry for too long. The first night at my aunt's place felt surreal. I cried myself to sleep, holding my sister in my arms. We do have separate rooms, though it just felt right holding her like this, till we had fallen asleep. My cousin's boyfriend, the lawyer, sat with us one evening, went through every note, every statement, every pattern. He listened, and then he looked at me and said, "You have more than enough to make noise, and we can and should definitely press charges." But we hesitated. Not because we didn't want justice, but because deep down, we still had that sliver of hope. That maybe, just maybe, our mother would finally wake up. Spoiler, she didn't. They will get married anyway. Not the big wedding, just the white dress, music, and store-bought cake. They want a small civil wedding, just the 2 of them, a few distant relatives, and some friends. They didn't even announce it to their close family. So how do I know? My mom and aunt share some mutual friends from school back then, and one of them, who got invited via a phone call, asked my aunt what's going on, because my mom seemed out of character on the phone when she got invited. However, she said nothing about the critical family situation. Inviting people to a wedding as your kids moved out. That's another level of horrible things to do. Anyway, not a word to us. No explanation. My mother is going to marry the man who made her daughters feel unsafe in their own home. So, want to know our response after we found that one out? We pressed charges. With my cousin's boyfriend by our side, we submitted the full report and also informed the school again to do so. Every inappropriate comment, every boundary crossed, every time we had to hold our breath in our kitchen, every time he knocked on the bathroom, begging to come in, while my 13-year-old sister was naked in the shower. 3 people, 3 consistent testimonies ready, stating what Brian has done to them. Our mother doesn't know anything about it yet, but believe me, she will soon. We're also currently in the process of filing a petition for legal custody for my aunt, as both my sister and I neither want to live with them or my psycho dad. And I already know that this will be tough too, but it's the only livable way. Hopefully, one of the days when everything goes to court will coincide with their ducking wedding day. That's what they deserve. Even though the story isn't over for us yet, because all of this is still to come, it still ends with this Reddit post, as we are now set for the future, and I have to continue to take care of my sister and my future plans as well. But I promise y'all, we're in good hands now. As for my sister, she's doing better. I don't really know if she can really grip everything that has happened, and my heart breaks for her, as she lost both her parents in such developing ages, and how this is going to impact her life and persona. I talked to my aunt. We're also currently looking for a child therapist for her. Someone who can help untangle all this trauma she had to go through for way too long. Starting with our parents' divorce, our father's neglect, and lastly, Brian. because she deserves that, and she deserves peace. I myself have been to therapy for over a year anyway, so that's going to be another topic to unravel there. For now, I'm still grieving a living person, because losing your mother like this is a strange kind of death. There's no funeral, no goodbye, just distance. But I gotta make my peace with it eventually. I'm also learning to make our little attic space feel like a home. And slowly, piece by piece, the weight on my chest feels a little lighter. If you're still reading, if you followed this whole storm, thank you, truly. Some of your advice gave us the strength to stop waiting for someone else to save us and to start saving ourselves. And I'm utterly shocked at how many of you have suffered a similar fate. You know, we are warriors. And to my mother, I could now write some sentimental crap again, but truly, screw you. Go get some help. Every child deserves parents, but not all parents deserve their children.